Often in a dream, I notice when people have cartoons or something really funny happens, more often than not, it's because they have actually just, in waking life, began to transcend a limitation, to move forward slightly in some area of their life. And in the dream, it's almost like seeing the funny side of where you were at. Oh my God, did I really believe those were my
Mm.
limits? Did I really believe my power stopped there? Did I really think that life was like that? Because when we do break through our limitations, we do tend to have that feeling, don't we? We look back and
Mm. They look so
What's
real
it
at the
for?
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it's all just an illusion,
Mm.
isn't it? So
Mm.
there's that kind of feeling in your dream too, that what might have been kind of a guard for me before, and you did say something about them being a bit different. So something about Lian, being a bit different, perhaps being a way of guarding myself in some way. But I'm seeing that in the dream as a bit of negative energy. Isn't that funny? Because I'm kind of moving through and past that now. And in fact, I've got this vehicle that's going to take me, this dinghy, pink spotted dinghy, that's going to take me.
Of
We'll
all
come to the pink
things.
spotted bit in a minute. It's going to take me. Was it underground or was it undersea?
Yes, it was like, um, as if we needed to get to the other side of this underground sort of
Yeah.
tunnel stroke, like tube underground station. It felt like a mix between the two, and the idea was to get to the other side.
Right, okay. So the idea was to get to the other side of the limited belief or the smaller life that I thought that I had, and I'm breaking out of that, and I need to get to the other side, and I have a vehicle and a way of doing that. It involves going underground, which probably means more into my unconscious mind. So it's more like your unconscious mind in the last 1 or 2 days has been shifting and changing, and maybe just releasing the guards a bit, releasing a bit of negative energy, and realizing that life could be bigger and moving through this. And your dream is processing it and saying, yes, so we're in the unconscious here. It hasn't quite hit consciousness yet. That'll happen in the next few days. But we're working through this unconscious to get to the other side. And just backtracking slightly, because I do want to come to the pink spotty boat, but backtracking slightly, you introduced the whole dream, I think, by saying it felt like it was a puzzle to solve, but it was also a war that you were going into. So, going
Yes, but
into.
not the typical feelings you associate with war. It was like so many people in this sense of kind of we have a challenge that
Okay.
that's we're moving towards together. But I didn't have any fear or anything like that. But it was sort of somewhere between a puzzle and a war.
No, that makes perfect sense. So we could also say wars are usually conflicts. In real life, it's a conflict between this country and this country.
Mm.
And maybe in your dream, it's a conflict that you are now working through. And it's great that you were all the people you were with. It's like, to me, it's like all aspects of myself are on board with this. We're
Mm.
not, we're enjoying the challenge of this change. It feels like a puzzle. It doesn't feel like a major war or a major conflict, but I realize, obviously, because the way that life is that we have all our conflicts, and that's why we have our boundaries and our guards. And then as we overcome those conflicts, we move out a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So there's this definite lovely moving that you've got. And I think the Alice in Wonderland theme kind of ties into that shifting illusions. We know at a certain stage in our life that this is an illusion. and as we break those illusions and move forward, the illusions shifts and change. So there's kind of acknowledgement in your dream of things shift and change, and things that I thought that I could do before, powers that I thought I had, can now be transcended. I can do so much more. And I'm acknowledging that in my unconscious mind. So it's a dinghy. What do you, when of all the boats and all the vehicles that could possibly be, what's the kind of, what are the pluses and minuses of a dinghy? What's the advantages of what can a dinghy do that other vehicles can't do, and what and vice versa?
So I don't think in my dream I was thinking it is a dinghy. It just, if I now recall it back, that would be the most obvious description. And so I think there obviously had some sort of dinghy-like qualities for that to be the case. But definitely in the dream, I wasn't thinking, oh, we're about to get into a pink spotted dinghy. But it did literally look like a dinghy.
So
Um,
describe, apart from the pink spotty, what made it look like a dinghy?
It was dinghy shape, so it was that size and shape of a kind of, lightness, almost like an inflatable type view of it. Um, the idea that you'd be kind of inside with slightly raised outside. Um, yeah. Yeah, it had a sort of like a lightness to it that was very dinghy-like.
So if everyone and everything in a dream represents an aspect of the dreamer, the dinghy or the vehicle you were moving in represented a part of yourself, the part of yourself that is currently investigating moving forward past these barriers into something new. So the fact that you described that it had a lightness around it was really good. So there's a part of myself that's feeling light and free with my ability to move. Wow, I was really held back before, but look, I'm so light. And it was an inflatable as well, which kind of fits with you mentioning earlier on about uh, it being large, something being larger than life. The Alice in Wonderland thing being larger
Mm.
than life. So this inflatable dinghy, it's like, it's not an inflated ego. It's not that. It's like, yeah, I can be larger and lighter. I can be larger and lighter and I can move forward in a different way. And hey, isn't this easy? I just want to know why. I want to know why it had pink spots. So what does the pink color mean to you? Or is it pink spots like
Um,
measles or chicken pox or something?
no, I think it was I remember actually talking about things having a kind of humorous quality. I remember even in the dream thinking, "This is quite funny." I remember looking at it thinking, "That's not your typical vehicle," and thinking how funny it was that it had these polka dots. Um, so I love the color pink. It's one of my favorite colors. And yeah, it was quite appealing. It had a kind of, again, a slightly comical, it wasn't like the most elegant of prints, let's say, but I remember thinking it looked appealing. It wasn't a negative thing at
Yes.
all. It was more just like funny and appealing.
That's lovely. So you described it as not your typical vehicle, and a
Mm.
couple of times earlier in our conversation today, you've mentioned things not being typical or being different. So, you know, that's probably a recognition of I'm okay moving forward, not being your typical fill in the blank. I don't know what
Mm.
I'm not being your typical person, whatever. And I'm actually going forward with the pink spots with a sense of humor and seeing the funny side of things and a lightness. So you may in the last couple of days been breaking through from more of a sense of seriousness and heaviness and being, you know, in a limited way in some way. And you're now breaking through that. And part of that breaking and that lightness and that larger sense of life and that speed and tapping into powers that you previously didn't know you had because you felt held back. Some of that is to do with being more comfortable with being not your typical whatever it is that you're not your typical person, your
Mm.
typical approach, and taking a lighter, like the dinghy, to that lighter, comical, more light-hearted point of view. Would you say in the last couple of days, although this is all very unconscious at the moment, that there's a sense of breaking through into more the freedom of a more light-hearted approach to life?
It's an interesting thing because I would say in general, I am very light-hearted and so I'm recalling these last couple of days if there's been a quality I can relate what you're saying to. It's certainly been, as I was sharing with you before we started recording, because we're in the midst of rebranding to Wild Sovereign Soul, and it's been, it's been tough in many ways to do this. This is asked a lot of us in all kinds of ways. Um, but I was noticing there was a particular feeling I had. I was looking at our rebranded podcast on Spotify with Jonathan, the co-founder. And I said to him, it's really funny whenever I see anything where it's got the new brand, Wild Sovereign Soul, it's got this strange quality of almost like relief. Like, that like it's just this really interesting quality. It's not this, it does feel exciting and all of those things, but it's more this just like, at last, this is right. Which is not what I'd imagined to like it doesn't match what you'd expect to feel. It's
Ah,
less of a kind of it's a relief it's done. It's more a relief like this. I explained it a little bit like if you reunited with a lost lover, like, oh,
yes.
at last we're back again. It has that quality. And so that's what springs to mind as you're saying it. It's felt tough to get to this
Yes.
point, and then it has this relief like quality, but not a relief just that it's done. It's something else that is
Yes.
not as I'd expect it to feel.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. And I've got one little thing that I want to say at the end, and I must remember. I'm just going to put it there and come back to that.
Okay.
So, so what you've described there is that lovely feeling of, and particularly probably unconsciously as programmed in the processed in the dream. The relief is not the relief of just having done the work. It's something deeper that I really wanted to connect with and get out into the world. And I'm only just now realizing how much I really wanted to connect with the world in this way and connect within myself in this way. This is bringing something in me out into the world. That I put over there was the name Spotify, which has got the name Spot in it.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
How
And
funny.
that's how much our dreams can sow these little seeds in, at some level. You're processing. And when I was with Jonathan looking at Spotify, I noticed, oh, this is wonderful. I'm making all this progress. And your dream went, spot. Oh, well, we'll put some pink spots on the boat. I think that kind of covers it.